All right, everybody, let's get into it. Game 4, Celtics take a 3-1 lead. Somehow, some way, they did it. I honestly don't know how we'll figure it out. We're going to try to figure it out together here. It's a post-game pod. Celtics lead the series 3-1, heading back to Boston. This is Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another post-game playoff edition of Green with Envy. The Boston Celtics take a 3-1 lead in their second round series against Cleveland Cavaliers. Here to talk about what was a mess of a game in certain degrees for the Celtics team. A win is a win. We will start there. A win is a win. This is your boy, Will Weir. Let's bring in my co-host, my best friend. I can't even get the titles right now, Greg. I can't even get the titles right.
You're a little frazzled, man.
I'm a little frazzled. That's what this game did to me. That's what it did to me tonight. It had me up, had me down. Tell me how you're feeling.
I think I feel a little bit better than you do. I think with a game like this, the Cavs coming out as hot as they did in the first half, where the Celtics just decided they weren't going to pay attention in the 3-point line. In the second half, they did a much better job of hugging up to shooters and letting the Cavs do more work inside and try and take away the 3-point shot, which I thought was a nice adjustment, one that I probably would have started the game with, because you knew the Cavs were going to come up firing threes. That was their really only hope to stay in this game. Obviously, fourth quarter execution, the scariest point for any Celtics fan is the Celtics up by 10 to 14 points with 5 to 6 minutes left
We've
in the
literally said this all year. The scariest spot a Celtics team can be in is that like 8 to 14 range, 5, 6, 7 minutes to go. That is the scariest spot for this team to be in. And the clutch games that the Celtics play, I was thinking about this tonight. I almost want to figure out a way to go back and figure out how many of those clutch games started exactly in that spot and then made their way into that clutch game, which is defined as within 5 points, under 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter or overtime. I would love to know how many climb their way into that from that 8 to 14 with 6, 7 minutes left, from the Celtics doing what we've seen them do over and over. But of course, they did find a way to come away with this win, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, they hit a couple big shots down the stretch. That 3-pointer by Jalen was probably the final nail in the coffin. But it's just like that fourth quarter offense when they decide they're going to just walk the ball up the court and hold the ball until 8 seconds left and run a pick and roll, or just like try and get a switch at the top of the key so that Tatum can go one-on-one against a set defense. We know that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is that's the frustrating part, is we as fans, we all understand, like, this is not the recipe to close out the game. Like, continue to try and run and push the ball and play with pace. And the Celtics never look like themselves when they really slow the ball down in the fourth quarter. And that's what's always the frustrating thing, is why do they continue to fall into that habit? But at the end of the day, as our guy, Cool Genuine Phil says, ugly win, but a win is a win. And that's how I feel right now. If we had lost this game, I would have been absolutely devastated. The fact that we won, I actually feel pretty light. I really thought we were going to blow this game down the stretch. It just had one of those feelings. Dean Wade missing that 3. I forget exactly how much time was left, but I think it was either like an 8 or 6 point game with like 6 minutes left, where Dean Wade had just hit a 3, misses the next one. Max Strus went cold in the second half. And hey, can we just say fuck Max Strus?
We can say it. Fuck Max Strus. Yeah. I mean, that's the Heat leftover animosity. Clearly, Jaylen Brown feels that way. No love lost there between Jaylen Brown and Max Strus. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So let's do a morning box score here real quick, just to reset this, because I think some of what Cleveland got tonight, which obviously we have to mention, no Donovan Mitchell, which I think is where this all starts from, right? Is the fact that, jokingly, as I was alerted that Donovan Mitchell wasn't playing tonight, said to our friend who texted us, like, hammer Cavs money line, completely joking around. But, obviously it is a little bit worrisome for this team that if you give them a reason to not be fully engaged or fully locked in, we do see that foot slip off the gas pedal a little bit. And that's kind of It's kind of what we saw happen tonight. So it starts from there. So that's something that we hadn't mentioned yet. So obviously, looming over this game is Donovan Mitchell, not playing. So with that being said, let's do a quick morning box score here just so we can kind of reset everything as we're going live here right after the game has just ended, which that, by the way, that also played into me just fumbling the intro here. I was scrambling over here to get some water and get
I don't know.
computer.
I don't know who's more flustered like tonight, you or the Celtics fourth quarter offense. Who's more flustered?
I'm telling you, man, like trying to get live before so we can get right on here. It's not good for me being like a proper intro. It's just it doesn't go well for me. I struggle to find the words. So let's do this. Let's hop into a morning box score because that's something that I should be able to do. Celtics win 109-102 against the Cavs. A win is a win. Celtics now lead the series 3-1, going back to the TD Garden on Wednesday with a chance to close out the series and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's start with the Cavs here. I thought Darius Garland was really good in this game. He ended up taking 27 shots. Well, kind of had to. Obviously, we mentioned no Donovan Mitchell in this game. 12 of 27, 4 of 13 from the field. He had 30 points, his highest scoring game of the postseason, 7 assists to go along with that. Greg, you mentioned Max Strus early on was real hot. I think he was 5 of his first 5 from 3, had 15 points, ended up fouling out of the game and really didn't continue to keep that hot streak going later on. Evan Mobley, 8 of 13, 19 points, 9 rebounds for him. And then Caris LeVert, 9 of 18, 19 points for him as well. Let's go to the Celtics and Jason Tatum. We'll start here. We'll start with the Jays, and we'll go to Jason Tatum here first. 33 points on 11 of 25 shooting, 2 of 8 from the three-point line. Still looking for a three-pointer in the second half, I believe, unless I'm mistaken on that. I think he's still looking for that second half three-pointer. 9 of 9 from the free throw line tonight, though. 11 rebounds and 5 assists. Jaylen Brown, 27 points, 8 rebounds. 7 of 9 from the free throw line. Was a little worried beginning of the game when he missed his first 2, makes his next 7. So that's got to make you feel good going forward here. 9 of 15 overall from the field for him. Drew Holiday, another great offensive performance for him. 16 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. I thought Drew Holiday was really important in this game. And then a solid 20 points combined off the bench for Peyton Pritchard and for Luke Cornett. Greg, looking at this box score, like I said, obviously with no Donovan Mitchell, but we said, going into this before we knew he was going to be out, what are some of the things that the Cavs need? They obviously need a better Darius Garland. They need Max Strus to kind of hit some shots. They need, maybe a kind of a wild card factor, Caris LeVert type game. And they kind of got some of those things tonight, but obviously they didn't have the Donovan Mitchell steady hand 30 points to kind of balance that out. But they certainly came out gunning tonight and ended up taking 48 threes. So they knew they had math, and the Cavs went right forward. And like you said, Celtics took them a little bit to adjust to getting out to some of those three-pointers, but they certainly made that adjustment in the second half versus the first half.
Yeah, the thing that stood out to me in that first half was just the amount of turnovers and sloppy play from the Celtics. I think we had 8 turnovers in the first half. At one point, we had 8. I know that. No, I think we had 10 in the first half because I tweeted out when we had 8 turnovers and the Cavs had 8 3-pointers at that point. And that was the recipe for the Cavs hanging in the game. It's 46-33 at one point in the second quarter. Feels like the Celtics are about to pull away and they turn the ball over and then they forget to guard the 3-point line. So everything that went wrong in that first half could have gone wrong, and the Celtics still had a lead. We were shooting 60% from the field, and the Cavs were hanging in the game. So shout out to the Cavs for hanging in the game. But when you look at the way that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown played tonight, that's what you expect your stars to do, because Derek White again wasn't very involved in the offense. Kind of invisible from Derek White. I don't know if that's a result of Tatum just deciding he needs to be the guy and shooting 25 shots. I'm okay with Jason Tatum, getting going, because at the end of the day, we're only going to go as far as Tatum and Brown can take us. Does it have to come at the expense of Derek White? I'm not so sure about that, but I like that Drew Holiday is being a lot more aggressive over these last 2 games. He looks confident. He's not getting the yips around the rim. He's finishing his layups, 4 for 8 from 3. His shot looks like he's back, but then he's also playing unbelievable defense. So the defense that Holiday's continued into these last 2 games with the addition of the offense that we've been looking to see this entire playoffs. I think that's really the key for this team. I'm not worried about Derek White. I think Derek White's going to find himself We know that Derek White can be a little bit of a streaky player, but for the Celtics to become the best version of themselves, I needed to feel good about Jason Tatum. I needed to feel good about Drew Holiday. And I think that's what these last two games were about, was really establishing those guys. And Jaylen Brown continues to just be a steady force throughout every single game the Celtics play. Jalen's always bringing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the Derek White thing. Not worried at all, especially because this is kind of the beauty of Derek White, right? The ability for him to either be the main character, like we saw in game one, and then to also still be, this guy that's playing a smaller role, right? And he can kind of fluctuate from that game to game. And we've said for a while that with a team that has so many, on court personalities, I'm talking about not like big personalities in the locker room, but like on court personalities of guys that can do so many things. Derek White's so perfect because it's the easiest for him to kind of fluctuate within that role. Everybody else, like, it feels like we talked about when Drew Holiday wasn't getting the opportunities, and then we're like, hey man, you had those 7 shots and they were super sporadic and you barely touched the ball, and then we're expecting you to be able to come through in those moments. Like, Drew Holiday has not been able to, that's not been Drew Holiday's career until this season, right? So that's a lot more difficult for Drew Holiday to do that versus a guy like Derek White, who's kind of, has been in that versatile, Swiss Army knife type role more often. And so that's why I think that's part of the like I said, the beauty of Derek White. And then you see what happens on a night where, Drew Holiday plays 43 minutes in this game, and he was awesome. He, hit some really big shots, played great defense. Once again, filled the stat sheet, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, a block. And I think you hit something that I think really stands out to me just from the eye test of Drew Holiday these last 2 games. He's playing a lot more confident. And I don't know if that's to the point that we said, like, just the opportunities, like maybe it's built into the game plan a little bit more that like he was going to be more involved. He's going to have more touches. And whether it was or whatever it was that's led to it, it clearly has been kind of a boost in confidence for Drew Holiday. And then you have the stars doing what they do. And another performance by Jaylen Brown, once again, where he has 15 shots, makes the most out of them, goes 9 of 15. He's 2 of 3 from 3-point line. As I mentioned, we've been talking a lot about being very worried about Jaylen Brown at the free throw line. Missed his first 2, made his last 7. I will take that all day. Please give me that momentum going forward. And so he's just super efficient. Once again, obviously, the one thing to call out here on the negative side of things is 9 turnovers from the Jays. And a lot of that was done early on, as you mentioned. It was a really high turnover. I think it was, what was it end up being? You said 10 turnovers in the first half, so only 4 in the second half. So definitely cut that down in the second half. And other than the offense slowing up too early, which has been, a problem that we've seen over and over again, the second half felt a lot more like Celtics basketball, right? Up until aside from that, 4
on the defense. Dude, on the first half, offense was great. We shot 60% from the field. We were getting whatever the heck.
Yeah, it was the turnovers that were just frustrating at that point, because they were really silly turnovers, right? Like they were just like passes that had zero chance, had 0 success chance of, and he was like, what are we doing here, guys? We can put this game away if we just play smart. So that was on the frustrating side. But I want to pull up here. We got our guy Jacob here with a question that I want to pull up. Appreciate the tip there, my guy. Do y'all think Mitchell sits next game, season 5? Well, I'm with you on the season 5. I think it should be season 5. I'll be honest, Greg, I was kind of thrown off by Donovan Mitchell not playing. I know he was on the injury report with the calf injury. I just fully expected him to play. To me, that just means it must be a lot more serious than we really knew about. I knew he had a bad knee from an injury earlier in the year. So this calf injury feels like it. I don't know if it started earlier in the series or when it came about, but it just must be serious, because I don't take Donovan Mitchell as a guy that isn't going to do everything he can to play. So it to me, this is just surprising how serious it was, and I just didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming either, but he has been limping around these whole playoffs, and everybody thought it was the knee, and maybe it was the knee initially, but you know what they say about leg injuries: when you're favoring one part of your body, oftentimes that leads to an imbalance in the muscles, and then you end up hurting something else because you're playing through an injury. So you might not, when the doctors tell you, oh, you don't have a chance of injuring it further, it's like, well, but you still have a chance of getting injured because you're not running with the normal gait that you run with. And it's unfortunate for Donovan Mitchell. Kevin O'Connor had that tweet where he tweeted out like, "Oh, the Celtics have the easiest run to the NBA Finals in the history of the NBA." It's really starting to feel that way, man. Like, no Jimmy Butler,
It's
Embiid
tough
was
to
hurt for
it's
the
really hard to make an argument against it.
yeah, and it like honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. I feel like
Yeah.
we as Celtics fans have just gone through so much shit over the past 6 years. Although we've experienced a lot of success and a lot of teams would trade
Mhm.
places with us in a heartbeat. I just want to get to the finals and see what we do against the best teams. Would we have liked to, cut our teeth against guys other than Max Strus and Darius Garland in these playoffs? Probably. We probably need the reps before we go up against Anthony Edwards or Nikola Jokic or Luka Doncic or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But even when you look beyond this series, are we going to play the Knicks? Are we going to play the Pacers? Like, the Pacers are pretty healthy. They don't have Mathurin, but they're pretty
Other
healthy
than
right
that, they're
now.
healthy, and they gave us some trouble this year, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
I look at the
And the
Pacers
Celtics
and
will 100% underestimate whoever we play in the next round.
oh, I'm already dude, I
That
was
I
thinking
can
about this
guarantee.
today. I'm guaranteeing a game 2 loss. I'm just guaranteeing it right now. Game 2, we are losing no matter who we play. I don't know how, but I think that's gonna happen. But, here's the thing. If the Knicks somehow get by the Pacers, they're still gonna be frisky. They're so injured. I don't know. Honestly, like our friend Liptak's going to game 5. He might have to suit up for them. He might have to go throw on the uniform and get out there. Like they literally have. I mean, they're down to like if at this point now, Tibbs would have to literally play G League guys other than like his top 6.5 guys that he's still playing out there. So it's just wild what the Knicks are doing. So if they scratch and claw, we'll see. They still have Jalen Brunson on one leg. And then if the Pacers get there, like the Pacers, like to your point, are basically fully healthy, right? And so with them, they've given us trouble this year. They play a quick pace. They shoot a lot of threes, so they're going to give you that variance where there's going to be an opportunity that they could, pull off a game or two. Like that will be a series I think the Celtics will have to lock in on, and they're going to have to keep their head in the swivel in case Aaron Nesmith comes from God knows where, taking out somebody's Achilles. That's going to scare the crap out of me all series, and I'm not looking forward to that if that were to happen. But that will be a series. But yeah, it's been a lot of very convenient breaks for the Celtics, no matter which way you look at it. And it's just one of those things that happens. I mean, even if you look back last year, and this has been going around a little bit, like the Nuggets postseason run, I think I saw this. I want to make sure I get this right. I'll look it up here in just a second, but I don't think they beat a team record-wise from the regular season last year during their championship run that would have made the playoffs this year. Like nobody had over 50 wins that they played in the playoffs last year, basically. So it's all kind of how you look at it. In real time, this feels pretty weak. But also, you think about LeBron, who was at the game tonight. By the way, I don't know if the Celtics were worried about LeBron was going to come onto the court and play for the Cavs since we couldn't beat him in his second go around. But you look at some of the runs that he had through the Eastern Conference. Some of those were pretty weak too, right? Like, I mean, we're
Yeah.
getting a lot more injury break, but I thought about that. I'm like, it's not like LeBron, when he came back to the Cavs that second time, was running through a gauntlet in the East. Like, we had an Isaiah Thomas team where the second best player was Avery Bradley. I love Avery Bradley. I'm a huge Avery Bradley fan. Avery Bradley should not be a team's second best player in the conference finals. Like, that's kind of the East that LeBron was up against. So it does happen. And you know what? Like, to your point, we've been through the battles. Like I'm kind of happy to have this route, and obviously it's still causing us stress. We're still stressing tonight over potentially Dean Wade game 2 happening at some point.
What year was it where the Cavs played the Pacers in that 7-game series when Oladipo
With
probably got
Oladipo,
goaltended? Was that 2017?
I think that was I think that's right, because I think that was the same year that we
Or
ended up taking the Cavs to. I'm pretty sure it was 17. I
2018?
think that was the year that
2018?
we took the
18,
Cavs to
2018.
7. Was that the year that we took the Cavs to 7 with Tatum and Jalen and everyone,
I think so. But I just want to look at
minus
like
Kyrie and
I want
Hayward?
to look at the Pacers lineup in that game. So they had Thad Young, Bogdanovich, the one on the Knicks,
Mm-hmm.
Miles Turner. Miles Turner's been on the Pacers forever, dude. Victor Oladipo, Darren Collison. They had Sabonis before he was like really Sabonis.
Yep.
Corey Joseph, Lance Stevenson, Trevor Booker. Not a murderer's row.
Not a murderer's row. Not a bad team, but not a murderer's row. Yeah.
And they went to 7 games with that team and like arguably could have lost that if the goaltending is actually called when Oladipo goes to
Mm-hmm.
the basket in that game. So Yeah, man, if the Celtics make it to the finals through a weekend, so what? So what, man? I'll be happy to get there. But we still got to take care of business.
You gotta take care of it.
It's
Right.
not a given that we're going to end up in the finals. I do think that Donovan Mitchell, to fully answer Jacob Ramirez's other Jacob's question, is that I don't think Donovan Mitchell is going to play the rest of this series, and the rest of
I
this
don't either.
series, meaning the final game, game 5. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is going to play, because if he didn't play tonight, he's going to magically get better for game 5 when they probably don't have a chance to hang in the series. He's
Right.
going to have to
And
play
really,
3 other games.
yeah, at that point, it's like you're playing with the hopes that you're gonna win 3 straight games, right? Because if you tonight was the pivotal game, right? Tonight was the game that was gonna give you a chance, and honestly, like, if he was healthy enough to play tonight and they would have somehow made this series 2-2, it would have made more sense for him to sit game 5, and then, when they come back home and it's like, "All right, let's just gear up and try to win 2 games now." Like, that would have even made more sense, but if his injury was bad enough that he wasn't able to go in tonight, which was a much more pivotal game, I think it's really tough to see him playing. And if he is going to play, I would imagine if it was serious enough for him to sit, it's going to be at a fraction of what we've seen from Donovan Mitchell in this series. And yeah, there's no doubt about it. This should be a series that the Celtics have no reason, absolutely zero reason to not close out on Wednesday night and then let the Knicks and Pacers continue to beat the hell out of each other, and you wait to see who you're going to play in the conference finals. But looking at this game, let's go back and just finish talking about this game here for a minute, because shout out to the Cavs. They put up a hell of a fight, right? Like, the Cavs did put up a big time fight in this game. Something that I thought was at least a little bit of a turning point that gave them a chance was, the Celtics defense in the first half. I thought for the most part tonight it was a little bit inconsistent. There were pockets where the Celtics defense was really good, and there's pockets where I just didn't really understand where the communication was, or like you talked about, why they weren't closing out. Is Darius Garland finally got going at a certain point, because the Celtics had 2 breakdowns of communication I think it's towards the end of the second quarter, where he just got wide open threes. And then Darius Garland gave the Cavs a fighting chance in that second half. And, his numbers don't look great, 12 of 27, but I feel like he played better than that given the
Aggressive,
context
man.
of the circumstances. Yeah. Given
Yeah,
the
that's what the
circumstances,
Cavs
I
needed.
thought he
They
played
needed
pretty
him
well.
to look around and be like, you know what? Max Strus probably isn't going to go 10 for 10. He's probably going to start missing some shots. Karis LeVert got off to a good start. Isaac Okoro is just awful. I don't understand any Cavs fan who thinks that
Real,
Isaac Okoro is ever
real
going to be
quick.
a player.
The funniest thing was you were texting me and we're like, why are we not closing out the shooters? And the first time I saw us really close out hard was that Al Horford goes flying by Isaac Okoro, who then bangs into Jaylen Brown's knee, which made my heart stop for a quick second.
Oh my
But
God.
they ended up being fine. But it was like, that's the one time we're gonna go flying out in a closeout is Isaac Okoro from the 3-point line. Like,
Yeah, Isaac
make it make sense.
Okoro, 1 for 8, 0 for 4 from 3. Let's keep letting him shoot that 3. I'd rather him shoot than anybody else on the court. But I've been really impressed with Mobley, man. I know we're kind of baiting the Cavs into allowing Mobley to just play one-on-one against the smaller guys so they don't shoot threes. That's part of our game plan. But Mobley's been able to take advantage of it. He was unable to take advantage of a lot of matchups against the Magic, who are admittedly a bigger team than the Celtics. But I've been impressed with Mobley on both sides of the ball. The Celtics can't really manufacture anything at the rim when he's in the paint, which brings me to my Al Horford question, because Al Horford once again just continued to put up bricks all night. He was 0 for 4 from 3. Had 1 hook shot, 1 elbow jumper, and then he drove a closeout for a layup. Those were his 3 buckets in this game. Only played 28 minutes, which was huge. Didn't have to play the 38 that he played in the previous game.
Mazzulla.
Shout out Joe Mazzulla, playing Luke Cornett 20 minutes as he should. But when Horford is not shooting the ball well, this is why we miss Porzingis so well. We've always talked about how, like, Al Horford in the playoffs probably shouldn't demand any gravity. Like, teams should be like, that's the guy that we're going to be okay with shooting shots. And the Cavs are still probably closing out to Al Horford a little bit too much. I think they should just park Evan Mobley right by the basket and just be like, all right, Al Horford, shoot. Grant Williams, 17 3-pointers in a game. Like,
Grant Williams treatment. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that's what they should do to Al Horford, honestly, because his shot looks completely broken. I think he's tired. I think we're overtaxing him. that he was meant to play 20 to 25 minutes this season, and now he's playing too many minutes. And it was good to see him back at 28. That's the max of what we
Yeah.
should see out of Al Horford. But Pritchard was good again, man. I thought Peyton Pritchard played well. I was getting some texts from some friends about Peyton Pritchard that are not Celtics fans, just impressed with his play, which is always something that stands out to me when people are tuning in to watch the Celtics when they don't watch them every game like we do. Who stands out on the court? And it seems like everyone likes Peyton Pritchard. Just like when we watch the Pacers, we're like, man, TJ McConnell.
I mean, they're just two guys that play super hard, right? Like it just stands out when you're watching the game. And yeah, Pritchard's been great in the series, right? This has been a good Peyton Pritchard series. We've talked before that there might be some series where, specifically, mostly we're talking about Minnesota and Denver, that we're worried that it might not be great matchups for Peyton Pritchard. But this is one that he's thrived in. He's been great. He's his shot last game I thought was the biggest shot of the game. Like, when we were kind of stalled out, and then he took a 35-foot bomb and just dropped it in. So Peyton's been great, man. I've loved seeing the Peyton minutes out there. You mentioned Luke. I thought Luke held up really well tonight. Luke was 4 or 5. Hey, the Jason Tatum Luke Cornette connection. I really like Tatum and Cornette on the court together, because even when Tatum gets a little ISO heavy, just kind of either dancing with the ball or pounding the ball a little bit, I feel like Luke is always still, it's very subtle at times, but Luke is still really good about kind of roaming that baseline and just finding an angle for Jason Tatum to find him if Jason Tatum drives. And we saw it on back-to-back possessions. I think it was in the third quarter tonight, maybe, where Tatum hit him with the alley-oop and then hit him again on a drive and a little handoff. So I really like it. That's part of why, those Tatum with the bench units, while they have such a high plus minus, it's not necessarily all just their pairing, but that's a part of it, is the connection that Tatum and Cornette have when they're out there together.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised that Missoula continued to go to Cornette, although Cornette played well tonight, instead of trying out a smaller lineup. There were moments, we were texting about it before Missoula called the timeout to challenge the block shot when Horford ended up getting
By the way,
block.
nobody can complain about Missoula calling timeouts. This man's on a timeout rampage
Yeah.
last 2 games.
He's loving it. He's loving his timeouts right now. And I just think that, like, Al Horford being in the game, I think he's holding up well enough on the defensive side of the ball. It looks bad when Al gets blown by, because when he gets blown by, he just gets dusted.
Big block late on Darius Garland on the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. But right before that, my point was, well, we were texting like, do we need to get Al Horford off the court, because he was getting blown by, and then they end up calling that a block. And Horford, I think he contests LeVert again on another possession, ends up with a big rebound on another possession. So I thought he played well. To me, the defense is not necessarily the issue with Al. It's like, can Joe find moments for some offense defense, where Horford's the one coming off the court on offense right now, because his offense just isn't there. I would prefer Peyton Pritchard spacing. I'd prefer Sam Hauser spacing. You probably want to go Pritchard over Hauser just in case you don't get another dead ball. But when the Cavs will probably call a timeout at the next possession and there's a dead ball, like, there are moments where you can go offense defense, and that's like the next step for Joe that I'd like to see. It might not just be something he vibes with, but I would like to see that a little bit more, because Horford right now, the way that he's shooting the ball, is a little bit of a liability on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm excited to get Porzingis back, because the reports look like he should be back on the Sooner side of things. So, but Al's out there and he's giving it his all, man. I'm not here to bash on Al Horford. I think Al Horford's still doing an admirable job with what he's being asked to do at this point in his career.
Yeah, KP coming back, that Bad Bunny magic that was playing in the background today during his shoot around. But yeah, when it comes to Al and going small, like you said, it just doesn't feel like that's Missoula's vibe. Do you think there would ever, like, I know you want to see it. I'm asking you to try to put yourself in Joe Missoula's shoes. I don't know if that's an easy task to do, but put yourself in his mindset. Do you think that, because I can't remember really if there has been a time, if there was, it was fleeting, if there was 1 or 2 moments where we did play at all this season without having a big on the court. I can't think of certainly a significant moment in which it happened. So I'm with you that I think there should be a moment where we see something like that, but I'm doubtful that we're going to, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just think, especially when the the offense at the end of the game is just like high pick and roll, get the switch, play ISO. Like if that's going to be your offense, if Horford's not even going to be involved as a screener or anything like that, which is his best asset, you might as well take him out, on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, Mazzulla's he's an experimental coach. We're probably going to close out the Cavs in game 5. I wouldn't mind seeing him even experimenting in the next game just a little bit, just like throw Brissett up there for a few minutes. He tried it with Tillman early in the series, and Tillman was god awful. Like, I don't understand people clamoring for more Tillman minutes. He hasn't been good this postseason.
Yeah, I don't see what Tillman just doesn't make sense to me, because whatever you think Al might be struggling with defensively or offensively, Tillman's not the answer to that, right? Like if you don't think Horford's holding up well enough in pick and rolls, Tillman's not going to do any better than Al is. And on the other side, when we're talking about spacing and shooting, that's certainly not going to be better with Tillman. So as much as I was a proponent of the Tillman move, it hasn't, in my opinion, hasn't really worked out quite the way that I thought it would. But I just don't think, for the reasons that you'd want to switch Al and Tillman, other than just giving Al an extended rest, which you just leave Cornette in a little bit longer. Like, I don't really see the Tillman move for right now.
Yeah, and I think the only argument for Tillman, because we have seen moments where he's been good this year, is like maybe he just needs to get a rhythm, and right now he doesn't have a rhythm. You know what I mean? So that would be the argument for playing Tillman. I personally just don't see it from him at this point. I think trade deadline acquisitions, it's tough to really get acclimated into the swing of things. So, if Tillman ends up playing, I'm okay with giving him another shot, honestly. But I would prefer that we try out Brissett, because we know what Brissett's going to bring to the table. He's going to fly around. He's going to get offensive rebounds. He's going to miss some layups and some 3-pointers. It's a known quantity what you get with O'Shea Brissett. But he's also a really, in my opinion, I think Brissett's a really underrated defender. I've seen some moments from him this year where I've been like, his athleticism against some of the elite athletes, he doesn't look out of place against the elite athletes, where if you throw Tillman out there, if you throw Luke out there, they can look a little awkward at times, just as they're just bigger guys. But I would like to see Brissett just get a chance. I don't think it's going to happen. I've been asking for it all season, the OKC games, the Miami games, all these big games where I thought Brissett should have gotten an opportunity. It just seems like Joe doesn't trust him, and that's fine if Joe doesn't trust him. But personally, that's what I would try out. But I've been saying that all year, so I'm a broken record right now.
Yeah, just we have some of the updated stats here as we're looking at NBA.com right now, just some of the usage stats, Greg. So we talked about just being really heavy with the Jays tonight. Jason Tatum, 34% usage rate. Jaylen Brown, 30% usage rate. We've harped a lot about on like Derek White's usage rate. What would you venture to guess Derek White's usage rate was tonight?
Under double digits.
Yeah, 9.9 right there. Nailed it.
Yeah. He wasn't very involved in this game, man. And like I said earlier, I'm okay with Derek White sacrificing if it means Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday get going in these playoffs, because they haven't gotten going. We've seen Derek White get going already. And Drew, think about the minute distribution tonight. Tatum played 44. Drew Holiday played 43. That tells you all you need to know about who Joe Mazzulla thinks is making the biggest impact on this series. Jaylen Brown probably would have been up there, but he got those 4 fouls in the third quarter. So I think Joe sees that their physicality is the difference maker right now in this series against the Cavs, where Drew's crashing the boards. Tatum's playing like a man possessed the last couple games. Jaylen is a freaking beast. And Derek White, is a little bit more of a finesse player. And if it gets more physical, Derek White's game tends to reduce just a little bit in its effectiveness. So I think for the Celtics to get Drew Holiday going and Jason Tatum going, that was the key moving forward in these playoffs, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, worth the sacrifice. So Celtics get the win, 109-102. It's now a 3-1 series heading back to Boston. Greg, looking ahead to game 5 here, Celtics got to close this out, right? Like there's not a world in which you can envision that we're here Friday night recording for a game 6, right?
I might have to cancel on you, man. If we are, I might have to cancel on you. Yeah, no. I think the Celtics close it out game 5. The Cavs, this was their best chance to hang in the series. It didn't happen. Same shit that happened in the Heat series. So, a win is a win is a win at this point.
Right. That's all it's about. Survive and advance. That's all we're trying to do here. It doesn't matter if it's pretty or ugly. All it is about, getting that next win. And, now the Celtics got, 9 wins to go here. They've got 7 wins in the bank, got 9 wins to go here. And that's the goal. That's the goal here. Let's get one more comment in here. Let's see here. I disagree on D White's game getting reduced with physicality, simply not getting shots/plays. Look at the Miami series. He just needs to be given the green light again to attack off the pick. I'll let you respond to that, Greg, if you have any thoughts on it.
I mean, yeah, I could see the argument that you don't think that he gets affected by physicality. Personally, when I see him play against a more physical team, I think that there are moments where like his, I guess, lack of a bag, so to speak, kind of shines a little bit. Like Garland, for example, got super physical with Derek White. I know it's one possession, but to me, this is like an example of what I'm seeing. Derek White trying to drive straight at Darius Garland. Darius Garland stonewalls him. D White spins over his left shoulder, gets blocked by Darius Garland in the last game. Like there are more moments like that where I think D White gets affected by physicality. I agree with you. I think any guard, if you give him a pick at the top of the key, can create in space. And I think Derek White does need to be empowered a little bit more, but overall, I'm okay with him taking a backseat over these last couple games because I really thought if Drew was going to continue to play the way that he was playing, there was no chance the Celtics we're going to win a title. So I'm happy that we've got Drew Holiday off the snide, and I think Derek White, he's going to be back, and I think the Celtics will find another position to empower him. I just don't think that was the priority over these last couple of games.
And I think part of this is the KP factor, right? Because with KP out, you need Holiday engaged like this, right? Like everyone that was like, well, Holiday's just here to play defense. That's fine when we have Kristaps, and then you can kind of, realign everybody's priority within the offense and within the defense. We need this version of Drew Holiday if we're not going to have Kristaps Porzingis, because Drew Holiday is going to be that much more important on both sides of the ball. So I'm with you. I think that makes a lot of sense here. Last question for you, Greg, before we go. We will be back. Actually, so quick programming note. So we won't have the post game after game 5. We're going to hold on that because we're going to do our live stream as we always do on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. So make sure you guys tune in for that. That's where our post game will live. We'll have reaction to whatever happens in game 5. And then obviously, hopefully, we'll be looking ahead to see what's going on in the other series between the Pacers and Knicks and start to look ahead maybe to the conference finals. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but we'll break that all down for you guys on Thursday. But last question, Greg, before we get out of here. How was the Olive Garden?
Yeah, if you missed it, so my fiance, who's pregnant right now, for Mother's Day, we went and we had a little spa day, and then afterwards we went to an Olive Garden. And let me tell you something,
Spaghetti
man.
day? Spaghetti? Well, it was a spaghetti day.
It was a spaghetti. Nice. There you go. Yeah. I think with Olive Garden, I was not ready for the line. Like when we got there.
When was the last time you went to an Olive Garden?
Over 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just not like a huge chain restaurant guy, especially living in Austin. Like there's so many boutique restaurants here. Like I would much rather go to a local Austin restaurant than go to an Olive Garden. So I kind of like in my head, not that I'm out here saying I'm too good for Olive Garden, but like,
oh, you're too good? You can't go to Applebee's?
Hadn't been there in a while, and I kind of forgot how Olive Garden functioned. And when I showed up, I was like, oh damn, like people really fuck with Olive Garden. There's a line out the door, like 25 deep. A lot of families with their moms, and it makes sense. It's more of a family restaurant. It's easy to get the kids to go there. Like,
quick question for you.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of Mexican families there?
What do you think? It's Austin, Texas.
I mean, it's Austin, Texas, but like I mentioned this to my fiance Lorena, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Mexicans love going to Olive Garden for Mother's Day." I was like, "I didn't know that." She was like, "Yeah, that's like it's like a known thing in like the Mexican community." It's like, "Oh yeah, we go get Italian food at Olive Garden on Mother's Day." Yeah. I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's a thing?" Like I had no idea. So that's why.
Danielle was kind of saying the same thing. Yeah. So Will's fiance is Mexican. My fiance is half Mexican. There are a lot of Mexican people down here in Austin, Texas, if you didn't know that.
So in general, wherever you go, you might see a lot of Mexicans, but I didn't know if it stood out.
Yeah, no, it was mostly Hispanic population for sure. And when I got there, I'm like, hey, how long for a table of 2? They're like, oh, it'll be about an hour. I was like, okay, can we just sit at the bar? And she was like, yeah, you can sit at the bar. So we sit at the bar, and let me tell you, the bartender at Olive Garden was freaking pumped to be working behind the bar at Olive Garden. It seemed like somebody had canceled their shift because it was a young kid. He was probably like 16, 17. And at one point, his manager comes up to him and is like, how's it going? He goes, dude, I'm so ready for this opportunity. I'm so ready. I got this. He was amped to be running the bar. So he was just giving us like really good service, bringing us all the soup, all the bread, mozzarella sticks were flying. It was great, man. I got a chicken parm. I got chicken parm twice this weekend, which is perfect for me because I love chicken parm. I'm searching for the perfect chicken parm down here in Austin because growing up in Boston, there's amazing Italian food, sub shops everywhere. Still haven't found the perfect chicken parm down here.
I've had some decent chicken parm. I haven't had a good chicken parm sub down here. I don't know that I have definitely not found. I've had some decent chicken parm.
There was this one place. It's called Belladonna's on Burleson, but they changed their chicken parm recipe over the last couple of years. It's not worth it anymore. So thinking about writing letter to management. But to Olive Garden, it was more expensive than I thought, man. We spent like $70. But we did walk away with leftovers. So we had a lot of leftovers. I was able to reheat some chicken parm for lunch today, which is pretty great. But overall, I think the Olive Garden experience was a positive experience, man. I think, 10 years from now, when we think about what we did on our first Mother's Day, we're going to remember, we got a spa day. We had a spaghetti day, as you said, at the Olive Garden. I think that was a perfect way to put it.
There you go. Well, that was great. I wanted to hear the update. I'm glad everyone got to enjoy that. That's going to do it. That's going to do it. It's a perfect way to end this episode is talking about the Olive Garden and Greg and Danielle's first Mother's Day at the Olive Garden. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode here of Green with Them. We will send you guys out in a high note. Celtics up 3-1. We will see you guys on Thursday. We will have a breakdown of whatever happens in Game 5. Hopefully, we're looking ahead to see what happens in the next series. But we'll catch you guys later. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your night whenever you listen to this. And enjoy some Black Sheep Optimists. Peace.
Every time I get this high, I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I get this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door.
You cut me to my core, baby. What can I say? You got me on the floor, I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but you seem to take my pain away. And every time I score, Jason Tatum fade away. I close my eyes and I'm floating your river. I call to see if you open,